What's up, everybody? It's Danny Ely. This is the ELEYD podcast where we talk about encouragement, leadership, entertainment, and youth development. Today is Tuesday. Oh, that mic's a little bit hot. Today is Tuesday, March 24th. We're in like week 2 or week 3 of coronavirus madness. Not supposed to say coronavirus on YouTube because then advertisers don't want to advertise, and then all of a sudden down below the live stream there's going to be a little thing about the truth about coronavirus. Just FYI, the inside information. Anyways, today is March 24th, 2020. Are you ready to go? Are you ready for this? Are you ready to do this? Let's do it! Oh, there it started to go again. I forgot to turn off that loop. Anyways, what's up, everybody? Thank you for everybody that's already in the chat. I see we got quite a few people watching on Facebook. We got a few people watching on YouTube. We're not doing TikTok tonight, but that's all right. Added this little nifty lower third here, so if you need to know where you can follow me on all the other networks, maybe you're watching on Facebook and you want to know where the YouTube channel is, or the one that I'm most excited about, mirrored. It's this one right here, Nimi and Danny TikTok. I love TikTok. Actually, every time I do a podcast, after I do the podcast, I go on TikTok live. And last Sunday, sat on TikTok live and we told jokes. It's a lot of fun. So anyways, this podcast, we talk about, like I said, we talk about encouragement, leadership, entertainment, and youth development. Those are 4 of the things that I'm very passionate about. There's a lot of things that I'm passionate about, but those are the 4 things that I want to bring forth on this podcast. And the one thing about leadership, I wanted to share with you guys a resource that has been incredibly helpful to me at being a leader and learning how to be a leader, because I don't think you ever fully become a leader, but you're always learning and growing and becoming a leader, right? Is I wanted to share a resource with you guys, and I wanted to kind of do maybe book club status on Tuesdays, talking about leadership, doing book club, and going through the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. Now, it's funny because Aaron Taylor is in the comments. He said he can't stay now, but he's going to listen later. And Aaron was the one that turned me on to the laws of leadership. We went through this years ago. This is actually the book. Nope, this is not my original book. Hold on 1 second. I got to check something really quick. Let me check here. Looking at my bookcase. I must not have it here. I must have kept it at my house, which would make sense. It would make sense for me to have it at my house. But I actually have, this book is by John C. Maxwell. He is the guru in leadership. Any type of leadership any type of studying you do into leadership, you're going to come across Maxwell. And I actually heard him talk about this chapter we're going to talk about live in Phoenix, Arizona. I want to say like almost 20 years ago. Has it been that long? Anyways, that night my parents were with me, and they actually stood in the line and got me a signed copy of this book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So what I figured we would do, because this is my favorite resource when it comes to leadership, is every Tuesday take a chapter of this book and then just go through it. And we can all learn to become better leaders that way. All right? So I do want to apologize. The future Tuesday leadership episodes will be a little bit different. Mainly because I had, what's up, Ariel? Mainly because I will have a little bit more planning time today with this current state we're in. Today was a very hectic day. I was telling my wife before I came to shoot the podcast that it was just go, go, go. And it was so cool because she got to be part of the day with me. But it started off working with our seniors, getting resources, and then going around and finding out some of their needs, and then actually going. With ATAP, we started a thing called the Shopping Club. I think we're calling it the Shopping Club. Anyways, it's where we're actually going and doing some of the shopping for people that can't get out. So I was able to go and get a couple of residents some stuff, and I got one. I was really excited because Dahlia, I got her entire list. We went and we were able to get everything she needed: potatoes, beans, rice, oil, water, tissues, and we were able to get everything on that list. So that was pretty exciting, and I loved doing it with my wife. Oh, find yourself a wife that can be gritty and get into things with you, because you will find a true blessing. Like, it was so much fun today working with her. Anyways, we'll start in this with the introduction of the laws of leadership, and then we'll go into the first one. Like I said, this is a really important law for me, because it's the base law. It's a starting law, but it also is it's important to me. It's just something that I have a lot of memories with a lot of people from learning this law. So we're going to skip the acknowledgments. And if you would like to read along with me, and you have the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, or you find it online, you can get it, and every Tuesday we're going to go through a chapter together. So, introduction. And this is not me speaking. This is obviously John Maxwell. I have the privilege of teaching leadership across the country and around the globe. And I have often gotten the opportunity to talk with people who are attending one of my conferences for a second, third, or even fourth time. At a recent conference here in the United States, a man in his late 50s, whom I've met several years before, came up to me and spoke to me during a break. He grabbed my hand and shook it vigorously. "Learning leadership has changed my life," he said. "But I sure wish I had heard you 20 years ago." "No, you don't," I answered with a chuckle. "What do you mean?" he said. "I would have achieved so much more if I had known these leadership principles 20 years ago. I'd been in a totally different place in my life. Your leadership laws have fueled my vision. They've given me the desire to learn more about leadership and accomplish my goals. If I had learned this 20 years ago, I could have done some things that I never would have dreamed possible." "Maybe you would have," I answered. "But 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to teach them to you. It has taken me my entire life to learn and apply the laws of leadership to my life. As I write this, I am 51 years old. I spent more than 30 years in professional leadership positions. I founded 4 companies, and I focus my time and energy on doing what makes a positive impact in the lives of people. But I also made a lot of mistakes along the way. More than most people I know. Every success and every failure has been an invaluable lesson in what it means to lead. As I travel and talk to organizations and individuals, people frequently ask me to define my essentials of leadership. If you were to take everything you learned about leadership over the years, boil it down into one short list, they ask, what would it be?" What's up, Josh? What's up, Chloe? How you guys doing? What would it be? This book is my answer to that often asked question. It has taken me a lifetime to learn these 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. My desire is to communicate them with you as simply and clearly as possible, and it sure won't hurt if you have some fun along the way. One of the most important truths I've learned over the years is this: leadership is leadership. No matter where you go or what you do, times change, technology marches forward, cultures vary from place to place, but the true principles of leadership are consistent. Whether you're looking at the citizens of ancient Greece, the Hebrews in the Old Testament, the armies of the last 200 years, the rulers of modern Europe, the pastors in local churches, or the business people of today's global economy, leadership principles stand the test of time. They are irrefutable. As you read the following chapters, I'd like you to keep in mind these 4 ideas. 1. Laws can be learned. Some are easier to understand and apply than others, but every one of them can be acquired. 2. Laws can stand alone. Each law completes all the others, but you don't need one in order to learn another. 3. The laws carry consequences with them. Apply the laws and people will follow you. Violate or ignore them, and you will not be able to lead others. 4. The laws are the foundation of leadership. Once you learn the principles, you have to practice them to apply them in your life. Whether you're a follower who is just beginning to discover the impact of leadership, or a natural leader who already has followers, you can become a better leader. As you read the laws, you'll recognize that you may already practice some of them effectively. Other laws will expose weaknesses you didn't know you had. But the greater number of laws you learn, the better leader you will become. Each law is like a tool, ready to be picked up and used to help you achieve your dreams and add value to other people. Pick up even one, and you will become a better leader. Learn from them all, and people will gladly follow. Now, let's open this toolbox together. All right, so that's the introduction. Thank you so much for everybody still here. We still have quite a few viewers in here watching. I wasn't sure if reading a book is going to be something that would be entertaining or something that, but I really believe it's something that would bring value to you. And just like he said in the introduction, technology marches forward. I remember, in fact, this is what's crazy about this book, okay? The night I got this book, I also got my very first cell phone. A Nokia green screen with the game Snake on it. Like, I got that cell phone this exact same night that I first heard the first law that we're about to dive into. And so he says technology moves forward. These laws are timeless. I mean, this is 20 years ago I learned this, and they are still very important and very needed today. All right, so let's get into chapter 1. Who's ready? You guys ready? Let's do this. Let's do chapter 1. All right, the law of the lid. Leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. I often open my leadership conferences by explaining the law of lid because it helps people understand the value of leadership. If you can get a handle on the law, you will see the incredible impact of leadership on every aspect of life. So here it is. Leadership ability is the lid that determines a person's level of effectiveness. The lower an individual's ability to lead, the lower the lid on his potential. The higher the leadership, the greater the effectiveness. To give you an example, if your leadership rates an 8, then your effectiveness can be no greater than a 7. If your leadership is only a 4, then your effectiveness will be no higher than a 3. Your leadership ability, for better or for worse, always determines your effectiveness and your potential impact of your organization. Let me tell you a story that illustrates the law of the lid. In 1930, two young brothers named Dick and Maurice moved from New Hampshire to California in search of the American dream. They had just gotten out of high school and saw a few opportunities back home, so they headed straight for Hollywood, where they would eventually found jobs on a movie studio set. After a while, their entrepreneurial spirit and their interest in entertainment industry prompted them to open a theater in Glendale, a town of about 5 miles northeast of Hollywood. But despite all their efforts, the brothers just couldn't make the business profitable. In the 4 years they ran the theater, they weren't able to consistently generate enough money to pay the $100 a month rent their landlord required. A new opportunity. The brothers' desire for success was strong, so they kept looking for a better business opportunity. In 1937, they finally struck on something that worked. They opened a small drive-in restaurant in Pasadena, located just east of Glendale. People in Southern California had become very dependent on their cars, and the culture was changing to accommodate that, including its businesses. Drive-in restaurants were a phenomenon that sprung up from the early 30s, and they were becoming very popular. Rather than being invited into a dining room to eat, customers would drive into a parking lot around a small restaurant, place their orders with a car hop, and receive their food on trays right in their cars. The food was served on china plates complete with glassware and metal utensils. It was a timely idea in a society that was becoming faster paced and increasingly mobile. Man, I want to thank everybody for being here, man. There's so many people in here right now. This is awesome. Dick and Marie's tiny drive-in restaurant was a great success, and in 1940 they decided to move their operation to San Bernardino, a working-class boom town 50 miles east of Los Angeles. They built a large facility and expanded their menu from hot dogs, fries, and shakes to include barbecued beef and pork sandwiches, hamburgers, and other items. Their business exploded. Annual sales reached $200,000, and the brothers found themselves splitting $50,000 in profits every year, a sum that would put them in the town's financial elite. In 1948, their intuition told them that times were changing, and they made modifications to their restaurant business. They eliminated the car hops and started serving only walk-up customers. And they also streamlined everything. They reduced their menu and focused on selling hamburgers. They eliminated plates, glassware, and metal utensils, switching to paper products instead. They reduced their costs and the price they charged their customers. They also created what they called the speedy service system. Their kitchen became like an assembly line, where each person focused on service with speed. Their goal was to fill each customer's order in 30 seconds or less. And they succeeded. By the mid-1950s, their annual revenue hit $350,000, and then Dick and Maurice split the net profit of about $100,000 each year. Who were these brothers? Back in those days, you could have found out by driving to their small restaurant in the corner of 14th and E Street in San Bernardino. On the front of the small octagon building hung a neon sign that said simply, McDonald's Hamburgers. Dick and Maurice McDonald had hit the American jackpot, and the rest, as they say, is history. Wrong. McDonald's never went any further because their weak leadership put a lid on their ability to succeed. The story behind the story. It's true that McDonald's brothers were financially secure. There was one of the most profitable restaurant enterprises in the country, and they felt they had hard times spending all the money they made. Their genius was in customer service and the kitchen organization. That talent led to the creation of a new system of food beverages. In fact, their talent was so widely known in food circles that people started writing them and visiting from all over the country to learn more about their methods. At one point, they received as many as 300 calls and letters every month that led them to the idea of marketing the McDonald's concept. The idea of franchising a restaurant wasn't new. It had been around for several decades. To the McDonald's brothers, it looked like a way to make money without having to open another restaurant themselves. In 1952, they started, but their efforts were a dismal failure. The reason was simple. They lacked the leadership necessary to make it effective. Dick and Maurice were good restaurant owners. They understood how to run a business, make their systems efficient, cut costs, and increase profits. They were efficient managers, but they were not leaders. Their thinking patterns clamped a lid down on what they could do and become. The height of their success, Dick and Maurice found themselves smack dab in the law of the lid. In 1954, the brothers hooked up with a man named Ray Kroc, who was a leader. Kroc had been running a small business he founded, which sold machines making milkshakes. He knew about the McDonald's. Their restaurant was one of the best customers, and as soon as he visited the store, he had a vision for its potential. In his mind, he could see the restaurant going nationwide in hundreds of markets. He soon struck a deal with Dick and Maurice, and in 1955 formed the McDonald's System, Inc., later called the McDonald's Corporation. Kroc immediately bought the rights to the franchise so that he could use it as a model to prototype and sell to other franchises. Then he began to assemble a team and build an organization to make McDonald's a nationwide entity. He recruited and hired the sharpest people he could find, and as his team grew in size, his people developed additional recruits with leadership skills. In the early years, Kroc sacrificed a lot. Though he was in his mid-50s, he worked long hours just as he had when he first got started in business 30 years earlier. He eliminated many frills at home, including his country club membership, which he later said added 10 strokes to his golf game. During his first 8 years with McDonald's, he took no salary. Not only that, but he personally borrowed money from the bank and against his life insurance to help him cover the salaries of a few key leaders he wanted on the team. His sacrifice and his leadership paid off. In 1961, for the sum of $2.7 million, Kroc bought the exclusive rights to the McDonald's from the brothers, and he proceeded to turn it into an American institution and global entity. The lid in his life and leadership of Ray Kroc was obviously much higher than those of his predecessors. In the years that Dick and Maurice McDonald had attempted to franchise their food service system, they managed to sell the concept just to 15 buyers, only 10 who actually opened restaurants, and even in the small enterprise, their limited leadership and vision were hindrances. For example, when their first franchisee, Neil Fox of Phoenix, told the brothers that he wanted to call his restaurant McDonald's, Dick's response was, "What for? McDonald's means nothing in Phoenix." On the other hand, the leadership lid in Ray Kroc's life was sky high. Between 1955 and 1959, Kroc succeeded in opening 100 restaurants. 4 years after that, there were 500 McDonald's. Today, the company has opened more than 21,000 restaurants in no fewer than 100 countries. Leadership ability, or more specifically, the lack of leadership ability, was the lid on the McDonald's brothers' effectiveness. Who's with me still? You guys still with me? Good. We got good viewership going on. Again, we're reading the laws of leadership. We're talking about chapter 1, the law of the lid. Success without leadership. I believe that success is within reach of just about everyone. But I also believe that personal success without leadership ability brings only limited effectiveness. The person's impact is a fraction of what it could be with good leadership. The higher you want to climb, the more you need leadership. The greater the impact you want to make, the greater your influence needs to be. Whatever you will accomplish is restricted by your ability to lead others. Let me give you a picture of what I mean. Let's say when it comes to success, you were an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. That's pretty good. I think it would be safe to say the McDonald's brothers were in that range. But let's also say that your leadership ability is only a 1. Your level of effectiveness could look like this. I'll hold that scale up. You guys can see that. Success without leadership. To increase your effectiveness, you have a couple of choices. You could work very hard to increase your dedication to success and excellence to work towards becoming a 10. It's possible that you could make it into that level, though the law of diminishing returns says that the effort it would take to increase those last 2 points might take the energy than it did to achieve the first 8. If you really killed yourself, you might increase your success by that of 25%. But you have another option. Let's say instead you work hard to increase your level of leadership. Over the course of time, you develop yourself as a leader. Eventually, your leadership ability becomes, say, a 6. Virtually, the results would look like this. So here's the second graph. Success with leadership. By raising your leadership ability without increasing your success, dedication at all, you can increase your original effectiveness by 500%. If you were to raise your leadership to an 8, where it matched your success dedication, you would increase your effectiveness by 700%. Leadership has a multiplying effect. I've seen its impact over and over again in all kinds of businesses and nonprofit organizations, and that's why I've taught leadership for more than 20 years. To change the direction of an organization, change the leader. Leadership ability is always the lid on a personal and organizational effectiveness. If leadership is strong, the lid is high, but if it's not, then the organization is limited. That's why times of trouble, organizations naturally look for new leadership. When the country is experiencing hard time, it elects a new president. When a company is losing money, it hires a new CEO. When a church is floundering, it searches for a new senior pastor. When a sports team keeps losing, it looks for a new head coach. The relationship between leadership and effectiveness is evident in sports. For example, if you look at a professional sports organization, the talent on the team is rarely the issue. Just about every team has highly talented players. The leadership provided by the coach and several key players makes the difference. To change the effectiveness of the team, lift the leadership of the coach. That's the law of the lid. A sports team with a long history of leadership and effectiveness is Notre Dame. The school's football team have won more national championships than any other team in the country. Over the years, the Fighting Irish have won more than 3/4 of their games, an incredible .75 winning percentage. I don't know when this was written because they've lost quite a bit lately. Former head coach Nut Ruckney and Frank Leahy have the highest winning percentage in NCAA history. Back in the early 1980s, they hired Gary Fassett as its head football coach. He was following the two great coaches, Ara Peregashan and Dan Devine, both of whom had won national championships during their tenure, and both of whom were eventually introduced in the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame. Prior to coming to Notre Dame, Fossat had compiled an incredible record of 174, 17-2 during his 18 years as head coach of Moeller High School. His team experienced 7 undefeated seasons and won 6 Ohio State titles. 4 teams he coached were considered the best in the nation. But when he arrived at Notre Dame, it didn't take long for people to discover that he was in over his head. As a coach and strategist, he was effective, but he did not have the leadership ability necessary to make it at the college level. During his 5 seasons as a university, he compiled a 30-26-1 record with a winning percentage of .35, third worst in Notre Dame's 100-plus year history of college football. Fossat coached only one other college football team after the University of Akron, where he finished an overall losing record of 43-53-3. He was another casualty of the law of ELEYD. Wherever you look, you can find smart, talented, successful people who are able to go only so far because there are limitations of leadership. For example, when Apple got started in the late 1970s, Steve Wozniak was the brains behind the Apple computer. His leadership lead was low, but that was not the case for his partner, Steve Jobs. His lid was so high that he built a world-class organization and gave it 9-digit value. The impact of the law of the lid. A few years ago, I met Don Stevenson, the chairman of Global Hospitality Resources Incorporated of San Diego, California, an international hospitality advisory and consulting firm. Over lunch, I asked him about his organization. Today, he primarily does consulting, but back then his company took over the management of hotels and resorts that weren't doing well financially. They oversaw many excellent facilities, such as La Costa in Southern California. Don said that whenever he came into an organization to take it over, they always started by doing 2 things. First, they trained all the staff to improve their level of service to the customers. And second, they fired the leader. When he told me that, I was at first surprised. "You always fire him?" I asked. "Every time." "That's right, every time," he said. Don't you talk to the person first, check him out, see if he's a good leader?" I said. "No," he answered. "If he had been a good leader, then the organization wouldn't be in the mess it's in." And I thought to myself, of course, it's the law of lid. To reach the highest level of effectiveness, you have to raise the lid, one way or another. The good news is that getting rid of the leader isn't the only way. Just as I teach in conferences there is a lid, I also teach you that you can raise it. But that's the subject of another law of leadership. So that's chapter 1. We did chapter 1, the law of the lid. Like I said, I first learned the law of the lid from the man himself, John C. Maxwell, at a conference in Phoenix, Arizona about 20 years ago. Super blessed then, and honestly super blessed tonight to share this with you. The law of the lid is something that has oftentimes been something that I go back to grade my own effectiveness. There's been times in my leadership over the organization that I work in or groups that I'm a part of where I've had to ask myself, is my leadership lid too low? Do I need to raise my leadership lid in this organization? Because it can only go far. The effectiveness can only go as far as the law of the lid. Super, it's just one of those important things, and that's why I really want to share this book with you guys, because it's been incredibly effective in my life. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. Thursday, we will be back at 6 p.m. Sorry I was a little bit late tonight. It was a busy day, but Thursday we'll be back at 6 p.m. We're going to be talking about encouragement on Thursday night. And then Sunday, if you enjoyed this last Sunday, we had kind of just a hangout, which I really like. A couple things that are coming up, so please pay attention to all the camera is off from where I'm used to pointing. So please pay attention to all the social medias there. Specifically, the TikTok and the all of it's important, because we are going to be. I have some news. A thing my wife and I are going to be doing starting next week. We're hoping that it's a lot of fun. But I want to thank you guys so much for being here tonight, being with me in the Law of ELEYD. Please comment below if it was helpful for you, if you gained something from tonight. And like I said, next week when we go, law number 2 is, I'll give you that really quick. Law number 2 is the law of influence. So it'll be a little bit more of a conversation next week, and we'll just be highlighting chapters of the book. But if you want to get the book is The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. It's an incredible book. You should have it in your library. Can't wait to be back with you guys again on Thursday night. Thanks so much for being here.